Welcome back into the Bangtan Universe wormhole. This video is part of the 7 series, in which we profile the 7 main characters of the Bangtan Universe one at a time. Each video is designed to give you an overview of the character's personality, motivations, struggles, and growth. To profile the 7 characters, we will need to discuss their storylines within the BU, so that means major spoilers ahead. Let's take a look at JiMin, the Broken Angel. But before we get into his story, please give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and click the notification bell so you won't miss out on our newest content. Now let's get started. JiMin is a rarity in his friend group because he lives with both his parents. But that doesn't necessarily mean he lives happily with them, or that he even lives with them all the time. His father is a successful businessman, his mother is focused on making her husband even more successful, and both of them are embarrassed by JiMin's psychological issues. Whenever he has a seizure or exhibits other mental health issues, they transfer him to a new school or admit him to a psychiatric ward. JiMin started out as a carefree kid who loved to play outdoors. In an entry from the supplementary notes, he recalls a childhood memory of swinging on a swing set, enjoying the adrenaline rush, and trying to swing high enough to go over the top of the swing set. He didn't succeed. Instead, he fell onto his back and got a mouthful of sand. But that didn't bother him. He was just disappointed that he hadn't swung over the top. Thinking back on this event, JiMin wonders what he'd be like today if he hadn't been traumatized by an experience at the Grass Flower Arboretum. When JiMin was in elementary school, he went on a field trip to the Arboretum and decided he was old enough and brave enough to walk home alone. He left the group and walked outside, but soon it got dark and began to rain, and he got turned around. He went back into the Arboretum from the rear and tried taking shelter in a storage shed. But inside he saw a boy even younger than himself, tied up and covered in bruises. The boy had been kidnapped, and JiMin watched him try to fight back against his kidnapper before getting beaten even harder. The boy saw JiMin, but the man did not, and JiMin ran away. Soon he slipped and fell in the mud, and the next thing he knew, he was waking up in the hospital. He didn't remember what he'd seen at the Arboretum, but he became anxious and depressed, and he also started having seizures. By the time JiMin meets the others, he's been shuffled around to many different schools and doesn't expect to stay at Songju Jail High School for very long. But he still makes close friends with the other boys and becomes particularly close to HYYH, who walks home from school with him every day, taking the longest route possible just so they can hang out together. Then one day, as the two of them are sitting at a bus stop, JiMin sees a familiar face on another bus. It's the boy from the Arboretum, the one who'd been kidnapped and beaten. Even though JiMin repressed the memory and the boy is a teenager now, JiMin still recognizes him, and the memories come flooding back. JiMin has another seizure, and HYYH gets him to the hospital. But JiMin's mother takes over and forces HYYH to leave. Then she has JiMin admitted to the psychiatric ward again. His world shrinks to a single hospital ward, and thanks to his mother, none of his friends even know where he is. Even HYYH doesn't realize JiMin never left the hospital. JiMin remains there for 2 whole years, and during that time he has a couple of very important experiences. The first one relates to his returned memories. JiMin is sick with horror and guilt at what he witnessed and what he did. He wishes he could forget it all over again, but of course he can't. And he can't talk to the doctors about it either, because they don't seem to care what he thinks or feels. They just go about their duties like robots. So JiMin decides to do something he's never done before: lie to adults. He can't forget what happened at the Arboretum, but maybe he can say that he doesn't remember. That satisfies the doctors, but it makes JiMin feel even worse, because he used to think of himself as a good boy and a brave one. Now he thinks he's a coward and a liar. In other words, JiMin has become a broken angel. His second important experience concerns another psychiatric patient, a man who often tries to escape from the locked ward. One day JiMin hears the man screaming, then turns a corner and bumps into him. JiMin falls and hurts his wrist, and the man screams at him. He calls JiMin by name, points at the locked door, and yells, "It got all messed up because of you." We learn more about this man in the Map of the Soul Era, but even now we don't know why he said it all got messed up because of JiMin. His words seem important though, and we have our theories about him. Stay tuned. For now, the most important thing about JiMin's literal run-in with this man is that JiMin injured his wrist. As a result, he was transferred temporarily to a ward where he could receive physical therapy. And while there, he meets an old friend. In year 22, HYYH passes out on a bridge and sustains a concussion, so he's hospitalized overnight for observation. By luck or by fate, he's admitted to the same ward where JiMin is temporarily, so the two friends reunite. Later, Seokjin comes to the hospital looking for HYYH, and he spots JiMin while he's there. Seokjin realizes that his mission with JiMin is to help him get out of the hospital, but that's easier said than done. When Seokjin pressures JiMin's mother to release him, she takes her anger out on her son, and he drowns himself in the hospital bathtub. JiMin also drowns himself if Seokjin tries to talk him into walking out on his own, or even if Seokjin brings one of JiMin's friends for moral support. The solution lies with HYYH. Almost as soon as they reunited, HYYH said, "Let's get out of here." And HYYH helps JiMin do just that. With a little help from Seokjin, HYYH arranges a grand escape that involves all JiMin's friends from the storage room. He's never had anyone who cared so much about him, and it takes all 6 of them to help him make such a huge change in his life. JiMin stays with HYYH for a while, but he knows he has to go home eventually and confront his parents. When he does, he finds the door unlocked and his parents watching TV. They barely seem to notice his entrance, and they don't pay much attention when he says he's not going back to the hospital. His father just tells him to wash up and go to bed, then adds that they'll figure out what to do with him later. Whatever they decided, if they decided anything at all, we don't know about it. This is the last time we've heard of them so far, but JiMin doesn't go back to the hospital. The Wings era shows the boys dealing with all the temptations, mistakes, and general confusion that comes with growing up. Each of the older boys, aside from Seokjin, becomes a mentor to one of the younger boys, and JiMin's mentor is Yoongi. Unfortunately, Yoongi is aware of JiMin's sensitivity, and he becomes overprotective of him. He doesn't want JiMin to get hurt any further, but JiMin has reached a stage where he needs to explore and make his own decisions, even when he does get hurt. It's just part of growing up. So finally, JiMin rebels against Yoongi and sets out to explore life on his own. But hang on, how can this version of JiMin, who rebelled against Yoongi, see another version of JiMin who's still being protected by Yoongi? And is the JiMin who rebelled being pulled through a wormhole? We have a pretty solid theory about what's going on here. Check out the Why a Wormhole video for answers. In the Love Yourself era, all of the boys except JiMin are paired with girls who share important similarities with them. For instance, HYYH joins forces with a girl from the orphanage where they both grew up, and together they form a club called Just Dance. JiMin joins the club because he used to love dancing before his experience at the Arboretum, and it gives him joy and confidence to dance again. So he knows the girl who's paired with HYYH, but JiMin himself isn't paired with her or with anyone else. Maybe this is because, due to all the time he's spent in various hospitals, he's less mature than the other boys and isn't ready to take the next step in growing up. This era is about learning to love yourself by seeing yourself in someone else. And JiMin doesn't have a clear picture yet of who he is himself. However, he does have an important interaction with HYYH's partner. One night when he's practicing alone with her, JiMin bumps into her and they both fall to the floor. He scratches his arm, but she's knocked out cold. The experience gives JiMin a flashback to the Arboretum, and the next thing he knows, he's in the bathroom scrubbing blood off his arm, while HYYH is rushing down the street with the girl on his back, carrying her to the hospital. By the time JiMin sees them, they're too far away for him to catch up. He feels so helpless and ashamed that he thinks he hasn't grown up at all since he was a child at the Arboretum. JiMin experiences real growth in the Map of the Soul era when he and the others have to figure out what's wrong with Seokjin and help him break free from the cat's spell. This requires research into the past of Seongju Jail High School, Seokjin's father, and even the man in the psych ward who told JiMin it all got messed up because of him. JiMin's memories allow him to make a critical connection between this man and Seokjin and Seokjin's father, a corrupt politician who's behind a series of criminal activities. Then JiMin goes online, and after a lot of very diligent digging, he turns up information connecting the man in the psych ward and Seokjin's father with, deep breath, the principal of Songju Jail High School and a missing student who might or might not be related to the kidnapped child JiMin saw in the Arboretum. As you can tell, it's a long story, so we'll refer you to the videos summarizing the Bangtan Universe Part 2 for all the details. But we're not done with the Arboretum yet. Thanks to JiMin's growth in this era, he's finally ready to face his fears by returning to the site of his trauma. He goes back alone at night, and just like before, a rainstorm breaks out. As JiMin approaches the storage shed, he thinks about everything he witnessed as a child. The kidnapped boy, the man beating the boy, and JiMin himself running away from it all. Then suddenly he sees a child dashing through the rain, away from the storage shed. It's himself as he was on that horrible night. JiMin doesn't seem surprised to see himself running through the rain. He just takes his younger self in his arms and gives him the comfort he always deserved. He even tells him about the wonderful friends he'll make one day. Then he opens his eyes and little JiMin is gone. The sky is clear and blue. So what really happened to JiMin during his second visit at the Arboretum? Well, we can say for certain that he didn't have a hallucination because he's never hallucinated before. We can also be sure he didn't just imagine the whole thing because the entry in the notes is written as something that actually physically happened. And it makes sense within the context of the BU, because JiMin isn't the only one who has this sort of experience. Most of his friends have entries in which they talk about traveling through time or space, or even into other people's bodies. And all these entries are written as if they literally happened, just like JiMin's. And all these experiences bring healing. In JiMin's case, he literally healed himself. He isn't the fearful, fragile boy he used to be. He's become a brave, kind young man with an important role to play in the next era of the BU. We're curious to find out what he's going to do.